2021 was a little bit different. Wait, is that what I mean, different? Largely horrible. Actually, come to think of it, so was 2020. Wait a minute. What if this isn't different and this is just how years are now? Speaking of disturbing patterns, maybe that desire for escape from our own bleak reality into one familiar yet different enough is one of the factors that fueled the abundance of multiverse stories in 2021. Did you notice that? The multiverse as a concept was huge in 2021, not just within the MCU, which is getting even more multiverse-esque next year, but in everything from gaming to Star Trek to DC to damn Phineas and Ferb. Okay, that actually happened in 2011, and I probably shouldn't swear so much about a Disney show, but you get my point. Let's dig into the whats and wherefores a little and hopefully find out why 2021 was the year of the multiverse, and why it's a trend that won't let up anytime soon. Plus, a surprisingly positive takeaway about how humans use stories to teach themselves empathy, while raking in billions of dollars on needless sequels and reboots. So it's both. It can be both. It's good and bad. It's messy. Let's do it. Alright, so first things first, in 2011 on the children's show Phineas and Ferb, the titular characters discovered the second dimension, and in fact a whole host of alternate dimensions that can only be traversed in one direction. Think of it like a clock that can only run clockwise and not counter. They eventually make it home by going all the way around the circle, which is a neat concept and really complex for a Disney show aimed at kids. Then 2 years later, they released Phineas and Ferb Mission Marvel, which officially made their universe a part of the MCU's multiverse, both of which are overseen by Disney. Again, pretty complex structures to lob at children.
Man, that kid's got a weird-shaped head.
But I'm sure the kids of 2013 went right along with it, because kids today are pretty dang smart, which is the whole reason I'm talking so much about Phineas and Ferb. We're all pretty dang smart when it comes to pop culture and storytelling, because we've all been steeped in it from birth in a way previous generations just plain weren't. The advent of the internet and smartphones has made us all fluent in the specialized lexicon of film, television, comics, and other media. Doubly so in an era when the biggest mainstream hits are sci-fi and superhero blockbusters about characters and worlds that were once nothing more than obscure niches to be discussed at Comic-Cons. That fluency is a big reason I think multiverse stories thrived in 2021. If you'd tried to tell a sprawling, interconnected story like what the Avengers pulled off in the 1970s, not only would the graphics have been hilariously bad, I think you would have confused your audience.
My friends, I'm not given to wild, unsupported statements.
Remember, before shows like Oz and The Sopranos in the 90s, we were barely even linking TV shows together into longer story arcs. Media builds on the media that came directly before it, and audiences tend to get savvier over time because of that. So it makes sense that only now, with things like Super Smash Bros. And Harry Potter under our collective belts, are we ready for more sophisticated multiverse takes like Into the Spider-Verse to come into the mainstream, slay at the box office, and win over the bulk of your average moviegoers. Story literacy is a major factor, but let's face it, there's a financial incentive at play here too. Once we realized consumers would accept worlds colliding, super teams of popular IPs could come together for meta projects like your Space Jams and Mario and Sonic Olympicses. Or my own new project, big tubs of Coke and Pepsi mixed together that I sell at a healthy profit. I mean, why reinvent the wheel when we've proven that we'll line up to pay for the same old wheels with a new set of tires? Less risk, less R&D overhead. It makes sense in a cynical, cha-ching kind of way. But that tactic didn't always work on us. There was absolutely a time before which consumers couldn't hang with stuff as heady as the multiverse. We had to walk before we could transapparate. Heck, there was a time moviegoers were totally blown away by footage of a train coming at the screen. It takes time for all of humanity to fully bake an idea and weave it into our stories and culture to the point that it becomes second nature. 2021 was the year our brain ovens went, ding, the multiverse is ready. I mean, nowadays it seems like every facet of pop culture is leaning into the trope. In gaming, we've got 2 platform fighters that combine different universes a la Smash Brothers, either released or announced this year, and one of them even has multiverse in the title. MultiVersus, coming out next year, lets WB characters as varied as Batman, Arya Stark, and Shaggy beat the snot out of each other, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl does the same for Nicktoons from across the decades. In both cases, the only thread connecting them is that they're all owned by the same company. We, the audience, are aware that the same brand owns them, even if only some of them hit the right nostalgia buttons for each of us. That's objectively so weird. Imagine pitching that in 1989. Imagine pitching that at any time before the audience was already familiar with Smash Brothers, or at least Marvel vs. Capcom. Of course, cramming a bunch of franchise players together into a fighting game isn't the only way 2021 tackled the multiverse idea, and set the stage for it to become a bedrock of storytelling at least into 2022. Spider-Man: No Way Home, by all accounts, is primed to do something we've never seen before. Combine 3 separate, already established film versions of the same character, owned by different companies, into one unit of movie product. If rumors are to be believed, the same movie may even tie the Sony and Marvel multiverses together in order to let one company use the other company's characters in its own future movies. At this point, the horse trading of IPs is now driving story decisions, when it used to be the other way around.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap.
Then we get Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which seems likely to weave the idea of the multiverse not only into its own plot, but also the continuing MCU overplot in an attempt to clean up or pivot outstanding story strands. It's Brechtian as all hectian. DC is doing something similar, because when are they not, with both the continuing Arrowverse on the TV side, which has been dipping into the multiverse for years, and the upcoming Flash movie, which will feature multiple Batmen from across movie history and was based in part on the Flashpoint comics arc. Star Trek Discovery has carried on the long tradition of dipping into the mirror universe from time to time. Rick and Morty's whole thing is basically messing with a series of nested universes. The main cast actually live in a universe different than the one they started from. And of course, Marvel's What If series dispenses with any kind of plot-driven reason for the multiverse to be in play, and just tells the audience straight up, look, it's just a show. So, for funsies, let's make Wolverine sprout full-length didgeridoos from his fists for a while. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't an episode? Weird. In my universe, that was the pilot. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned the second Warner Brothers-based multiverse spawned in 2021. All those weird movie planets from Space Jam 2. The less said about Casablanca World, the better.
Oh, you got baggage, lady.
I'd even argue the 2020 Animaniacs reboot counts as a third Warner Brothers multiverse, since the Warners live in a standard Toon-looking universe, while Starbox and Cindy occupy some kind of watercolor nether space. The idea has saturated our thinking at all levels and across all genres in a way I certainly haven't seen in my lifetime. It works. It has its flaws, but it makes money, so we're doing it. But accepting all that, the multiverse isn't a brand new idea. Technically, it could be looked at as one of our oldest storytelling tropes. Homer's The Odyssey combined a number of popular characters already made legendary by other epic poems that came before. Even the upcoming God of War Ragnarok is a multiverse story, with Midgard at the hub. That's especially interesting because it reminds us that the idea of other realities overlaid on our own is already there, woven into Norse mythology and many other schools of thought and faith dating back to ancient times.
Where must we go?
To a realm beyond your own.
So even though our stories have gotten more structurally sophisticated in a way that suits the multiverse idea, it's more like we've rediscovered a kind of story that feels especially relevant right now, which leads me to the nice thing about the rise of multiverse storytelling. I don't think it's a coincidence that at a time when our culture is undergoing a drive toward expanded empathy for broader categories of people, we're also into stories that encompass multiple points of view at once, or embrace nuance by presenting several versions of the same person, several ways it could have been different. The multiverse setup is inherently empathetic that way. It often invites you to inhabit a diverse set of viewpoints. It's also inherently meta, in that it expects an audience that understands a movie is a movie and not reality, and for their audience to be at least passingly familiar with the components that make up that story. What If makes a whole lot less sense if it's your very first experience with Captain America as a concept. Multiverse stories exist in reference to other stories and need you to have done your homework. That is, I think, the pretty cool thing about 2021 and its glut of multiverse narratives. For all the wonky things multiverse stories may do to pacing, screen time per character, and the like, they're inarguably dense with information, and therefore potentially packed with wisdom, resonant ideas, truths we couldn't otherwise get at. By referencing entire continents of story that we're already familiar with, multiverse tales let us grapple with nuance, complexity, and the broader galaxy of humans outside ourselves. Time loop stories serve much the same function, and they've also had a banner couple of years. If you want to learn a whole lot more about time loops, the Flynn effect, and the nature of postmodern art, make sure to check out my video, Why Time Loops Are the New Zombies. Or if you want to dig even deeper into how Into the Spider-Verse uses its own multiverse to teach empathy, check out my video, Art of the Scene, How Into the Spider-Verse is the opposite of other superhero movies. See? I'm trying to do this thing where all my think pieces link together over the course of my tenure at IGN. It's the world's first video essay multiverse, baby. Boom! Mind's blown! Oh, and for everything else gaming and entertainment, keep it strapped to IGN.